question I was going to ask you. First off, I grew up coming to this fair from the time I was little. I remember meeting your dad when I was a little girl, and then we started doing the shows. My mom had to get this jewelry, health food, psychic store back in the 70s. And we would take it on the road in the summers, and we would do the jewelry, and we were concessionaires, and we travel with the Straits shows. So sitting here and talking with you today is going to be a blast, because it's so cool to me. This whole world, it's a whole different world, and that you grew up in.
Well, I should be interviewing you, Cass. And I said this earlier. So while we begin to talk about this, your audience should know we've already been talking about this for about 2 hours already. But yeah, we were on the Straight shows together as kids at the same time.
Yeah, and we were there at the same. We must
which
have
is
met
bizarre.
each other, known each other. That's
and my brother saw you in our office area here the other day, and he said, "Jimmy, who was that? She looked so familiar." And I thought to myself, "Wow, could he be seeing a face that he knew when he was a kid, and recognizing you through yeah." And that's happened to me. Like 30 years later, I see someone that I knew. So who knows? But it's a small world. It's really interesting. So
now, how did your grandfather started this, right? Tell me a little bit about his.
Well, he was a Greek immigrant, and I believe the reason it was right around the turn of the century. I think he was born in maybe 1909. I should probably read the history page on our website. Don't worry, I forgot what I had for breakfast already. In fact, and it's easy because I missed breakfast already, right?
I was just going to say I didn't have it. So
I have an
excuse.
excuse. But anyway, so my grandfather lived in Greece in the mountains above Sparta, and I think there were a bunch of wars going on between Turkey and Greece, and was resulting in just a decimation of all the young populations in those countries. So they were off doing the thing they were doing, and the parents didn't want their kids killed. So when he was 15, they loaded him on a ship and they sent him through England to the United States with other relatives to go live with other relatives, but his parents didn't come with him. So they sent him out of there though to avoid almost certain death. So really he came to America as a young person that was fleeing war.
Right.
And so my grandfather was a Greek immigrant fleeing from war, and if the United States didn't allow him in, then the only railroad carnival in America today would not be in existence.
Right.
I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be playing the Erie. A lot of things would be different.
I would be sitting here talking to you.
And there's a lot of good. And you listen, it would just be a different reality. But there was the goodness of this country, and they let him in, and he achieved the American dream. He went to high school. He was working in a shoe factory. I think it was the Endicott Johnson Shoe Factory in Endicott, New York area, and they had moved around a little bit. But he was going to school, and he was wrestling, which was just a high school thing to do. And the Greek wrestlers in that community decided they were going to start a show, when they didn't know what they were going to do. They were making shoes already, and they'd probably get tired of making shoes. So anyway, they decided to put together their own wrestling show, because they were all, high school wrestlers, and I guess they were pretty good at it. So they took this wrestling show and started going from town to town, four different Greek wrestlers. Yeah. So they were growing. They realized they needed to spread out the entertainment a little bit. So they decided they needed something to drive up those almighty per cap spendings by getting something for everybody. So we needed something for the kids, for mom. So anyway, the food started up, the game started up, and the ride started up. And the first thing they did was they bought, I think it was a Ferris wheel. The next one was a merry-go-round, and they started to get animals, and they began to form an animal show. And later on, it turned into performing animals and an animal show, and then livestock shows. And the shows began to grow. So that the name of our company was James E. Straits Shows, and that's not James E. Straits' show. It's James E. Straits Shows, which is plural. The shows is plural.
Oh, okay.
So the plural shows is a reference to the name was the name when there were multiple shows, and it primarily wasn't a carnival.
Okay.
It was a wrestling show that developed into other shows. And so there was the freak show and the girl show and the elephant show and the wrestling show and athletic show and the fat lady show, and they call those 10s and 1s. They were freak shows, but they call them 10 and 1s because there might be 10 different attractions under one banner, so 10 things under one tent. So anyway, Young Strangler Lewis was my grandfather, and the other guys had their own name. The moment that everybody else had enough of this and they decided, I'm done, I'm going home, my grandfather was the only one in the group that just hadn't had enough, and he bought out their interest and stuck with it. So that was the moment where it really began its transition to something else, and as time progressed, the rides were the things that kept getting a little more spectacular and never really got politically incorrect, whereas the other things became, in the public's eye, less spectacular and more politically incorrect.
We would run, I lived in Hamburg, and the railroad track was about half mile back, and we'd hear the train and we would run to get to the tracks so that we could see the train come in, because it was so exciting. You had all of this on the side of it, and we knew all of the elephants and the tigers and the rides.
Pretty funny stuff.
And again, now, you know, being, as I got older, became very aware of animal rights and the whole thing, but as a child, I mean, I grew up, this was exciting.
Jamesy Straight Shows, we now call it Straight Shows because I'm named after my grandfather, and I've got 4 other brothers and sisters that don't think their business should just be named after one of their siblings.
Yeah.
So I try to remind them, it's not just my name, it's Grandpa's name.
Yeah.
Leave my name on the wagon. Anyway, they didn't listen to me, and they called it Straight Shows now. And that's still okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Rat bastards.
Now, could you show me around this show?
Let's go.
But I remember growing up, like at the Roadhouse or the Food House after, you know, the show was closed and everybody went to eat. And I remember the guys that had seniority got these rides that turned upside down because change would fall out of people's pockets. So there was like an extra bonus points.
Well,
You had the rides that people turned upside down. In the carny world, in the carny hierarchy, because there is a hierarchy.
yeah, you were here.
Yeah, yeah.
If you saw that, I do not question that it's reality. I'm guessing there was a United States Marine Corps boss, my father, and I say Marine Corps boss because they say once a Marine, always a Marine.
Right.
I'm guessing there was a guy that wasn't knowledgeable that they were doing that at that moment.
Yeah.
Probably knew that they did it because he would see him from time to time and yell at him and tell him to get back.
Right.
But it doesn't surprise me to find out that it happened. So now, and how do I know that at least part of what you're saying is absolutely truth? Is because we have actually had over the years incidents where some guys were so intent on finding change under a mythical ride, like we'll just name some crazy name like the Zipper, that they get hit in the head by it while it's operating. And so anyway, actually, it was the Zipper, and there's been multiple people, because the Zipper has such a propensity for shaking money out of people. It happens to be the place that most people looking for money would look, and they just haven't come to the level of expertise that they should look when the ride's not running instead of when the ride's running. But there's also that adage that says, you snooze, you lose. And if the money hits the ground, it's not going to be there very long. So if you're there when it's falling, you're most likely the guy that's going to get it if you can stay alive.
Now, what is this ride you have brought me to?
This is the Crazy Mouse.
Will we
Well, yeah, I was looking. I was going to say Wild Mouse, which is the previous iteration, but this is the Crazy Mouse.
All right.
And we had a mouse early in the day too. It was an all wooden coaster, which was quite a thing.
So are we going to ride this?
If you would like to ride it, we will ride it.
Are you the Crazy Mouse? Do you like the Crazy Mouse?
I like them all.
All right.
I have to say that though because I'm trying to sell.
All right. Well, if I throw up, it'll be a bonding.
You won't throw up.
Oh.
Listen. Can I start interviewing? Because earlier in my interview with Kat, I found out that she has had a few episodes with motion sickness. Some story about a tandem skydive jump, you go left, I'll go right, something. But anyway, maybe we'll save that for the podcast. Jumping out of an airplane, did anyone say to you like, I don't know. Your chute doesn't look good. I don't think I'd jump it and then push you out the door.
No, did you have that happen?
Mhm.
Oh, I wasn't on camera when I got sick though. When we hit the tooth, I held it until the cameraman went down on his own, and then I got sick. So, oh my God, here we go. We're going up. This is where it gets crazy. All right.
Well, you know, can we
I haven't thrown up yet. This is good, Jim. Oh, that was fun. Oh man, this is your favorite ride?
No.
No?
Not anymore.
What is the passion, like for you, for your family? What is passion in, like, if you could say it in 100 words or less? What is passion for your family that they are now, in your son, 4 generations of doing these shows and providing this joy for people?
Kind of a multifaceted question, so I'm going to work on the first part, which is keep it down low. You know, the attraction, there's a statement, and you may have heard it when you were young going through it, and you probably experienced it, but they call it getting sawdust in your shoes. And getting sawdust in your shoes means you were around here, and back in the day they used to cover the mud with sawdust. Mm-hmm. And so you walk around, you get sawdust in your shoes. Basically it means you have walked the walk of this lifestyle, and when you get sawdust in your shoes, there's something in your soul that makes you want to return to it. And I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps, and I could have kept doing that. Loved it to death. Life changes there. So my decision to come into it was part based on the sawdust in my shoes from when I grew up in it, and part is based on the fact that there's a tradition, and the tradition needs to be continued. And I have sawdust in my shoes, and I have my grandfather's name, and so who better than me? And so it seemed like a natural, and so I'm off and running, and I don't want to speak for all my brothers and sisters, but I imagine that they are operating under the same premise and the same drive, except that they didn't like the James E, so they took my name off it and put their name on it.
I know,
So, which goes to show.
No,
listen, I feel like I am the caretaker of a tradition and a history that I'm part of, but it's bigger than me. So what I need to do is take good care of it.
You know, so it's bringing joy to people.
Yeah.
Every day. When you see the joy on the faces of people on the Midway and these children and even the adults who grew up with the fairs, that's got to be worth it.
Yeah, you know, there's one, maybe I'm here to make kids good, maybe I'm here to help other people with their lives, and it's just the carnival is the conduit by which we do it. I don't know. Then the real thing is, I don't know. So you know what? We need to play all angles. We'll take care of them, and we'll make the kids smile. And we will take this thing very gingerly. We'll take good care of it, and we'll pass it on to the next time. And hopefully we'll have a lot of family around us when we say goodbye. And then someone else will take it up and run, because I'm about exhausted today.
Well, thank you. You're wonderful. Oh my God, what a joy. What a joy to talk with you and to go around the fair and to have this experience with you. So beautiful. I am here today with somebody whose story is so remarkable. I'm so excited to talk to him. And his name is Dr. Richard Antoine White. He wrote a book, I Am Possible. It's a story of hope. He is a professor of tuba, and he also is in the Philharmonic of Santa Fe, and just has the most remarkable story. And welcome today to the show, Richard. It's so nice to have you on Passionate Living.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I feel like you are one of the poster child of passionate living. You've had challenges along the way. It also develops an immense amount of compassion and empathy toward the world. And I've found that people who've had a lot of challenges early on tend to want to do more, to immerse themselves in making a difference in the world around them. And it seems like that is the journey that you've been on.
I think that is correct. I personally believe that there are thousands of problems in the world, but I also believe that 99% of them can be solved if we were just kind to one another. I think if we were honest about our grade and giving us a report card, I don't think we score as high as we want to in reference to being kind. I also think that, life is fair because it's unfair to everyone. So when life is good, embrace it. It's good, and I think we should enjoy that. When it's bad, I think we should just chalk it up to experience, because all bad things have an expiration date. It's kind of a weird duality, right? The good won't last forever, nor will the bad, right? So we should embrace the good.
If something's going wrong, just hold on, wait a moment. If something's going great, just hold on, wait a moment.
Yes.
Because change.
I think you bring up a very interesting point. I don't know if it's because of my background, but I do feel a lot of compassion for the world. And I feel like because I've been blessed with what I call the 3 C's, a chance, choice, and change. We all just want a chance to make the right choices, to see the kind of change that's going to be for the betterment of all. And because of that, I feel like I owe, because I'm privileged enough to have a chance and a choice, I owe. I don't want to let the person down next to me. I don't want to let the universe down. I don't want to let you down. If it was solely up to me, I would play my Nintendo Switch, eat potato chips and donuts, and sit on my couch, but I figure if I offer the world my very, very best, and you offer the world your very, very best, that has to equal something magnificent. So I'm looking forward to life and inspiring hope in everyone. So cumulatively, our very best is put forward.
Your journey is fascinating. Now, you single parent mom raising you when you were young, and she had alcohol addiction issues.
Correct.
And
Yep.
it really in some ways carved out a path for you in life.
I'm often asked, would I change anything in my life? And the answer is no. It's the hand I was dealt, and I played it to the best of my ability. I love my mom. I think she loved me, and she probably did the best she could do battling her own demons. But at the end of the day, she was wise enough and generous enough to do what has to be one of the hardest things for any parent to do, and that's to give their kid up.
Now, you were searching for her one night as a child. How old were you when that happened during the blizzard?
So much like any other kid, every day I woke up and I played in the streets. But much different from any other kid, I had a few tasks during that day. One was to find nourishment. I often found food in trash cans and would chew it and store it under my tongue because it was so unpredictable as to where my next meal would come from. I would find old discarded shoes, 4 or 5 sizes too big, stuff newspaper in them so they would fit, and obviously they would fall off. That's why I always ran around barefoot. It wasn't by choice. The shoes just didn't stay on. I tried to be creative with stuffing newspaper in them, but at the end of the day, my ultimate task was to find my mom. And some days I was successful, and other days I wasn't successful. And when I couldn't find her, I would sleep under trees, on a cardboard, abandoned houses. And in the late 70s, there was this giant snowstorm. I was unsuccessful at finding her.
Where were you living? Where were you living? That was the blizzard of 77, right? That you're talking
Yes, 77 or 78. Yes, the late 70s. And we didn't have a home. Like, I guess you call it intermittent homelessness, where we didn't have a lease or house that belonged to us. It was just this friend let us stay here this night. We stayed there.
Were you on the East Coast? Where were you?
Yes, Northeast, Baltimore.
Where?
Definitely.
Baltimore. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I was in Buffalo for that storm, so I remember that storm as a child.
Yeah, the whole Northeast got hit. I think you can look it up. The whole Northeast.
Yeah.
It was just historical storms, and I couldn't find her, so I crawled into what's known as the vestibule. It's just the space between the actual house and the outside. Next morning, I woke up with authorities surrounding me, and everyone realized that they had to have an intervention because if this happened again, I might not survive.
Right. And it was at that point that you moved in with your grandparents, correct?
Yes. So the same people that adopted my mom eventually adopted me. I think legal term is that they got legal custody of me.
Right.
you know, and oftentimes I'm asked, how did I survive on the streets? And I think one of the gifts my mom gave me was an extraordinary imagination. Oftentimes I had to imagine a full stomach. I had to imagine a warm blanket to the point where it actually saved my life.
And this water fountain has got to be just as old as me. Oh, it still works. Wow. That was my bathroom, man.
And my foster parents are just generous, kind people. When I talk about 99% of the world's problem can be solved if we were just kind, they are kind. And I think what's most important when you talk about this passion and sense of purpose is that it's collective. I really say in my book, every friend, every teacher, every mentor, every stranger I have ever met, I credit with helping me become the person that I am. Because oftentimes in our society, we don't understand the difference between recognizing and acknowledge. Oftentimes we drive down the street and we recognize the homeless person because we see them every day, panhandling or whatever they're doing. But to acknowledge them would simply be to stop and say, hello, how are you? And it costs nothing to do that.
Now tell me about tuba. How did you end up playing tuba? Why tuba? And you've broken some thresholds with tuba in as far as
yes, I think
diversity.
I've been lucky. So in fourth grade, some amazing magic person came to school with all the instruments and played them. And I looked at my best friend Dante Winslow, who's a very accomplished trumpet player, Justin Timberlake, Queen Latifah, and I said, hey man, we should pick trumpet. It only got 3 valves. It's got to be easy. Boy, was I wrong. It was really hard. So by the time we got to middle school, I was like number 18 out of 30 some trumpets. I was like, this ain't working out, man. I looked up and saw this sousaphone player, and it was only one of those. I was like, I want to play that. It's only one. And so I asked to play sousaphone, switched to sousaphone, and it became my kindred spirit. It's big, it's clumsy, it's the butt of a lot of jokes. It just represented my life. And throughout middle school, then high school, it became apparent, like, man, where else in the world can you play tuba and be cool? I was cool at the Baltimore School for the Arts. For your listeners that don't know, Harvey Phillips was my mentor. He inspired the tuba ranch for me. Harvey Phillips is the Paganini of tuba. In fact, they call me Little Harvey Jr. because I'm inspired by his thinking and his belief. I call him the dreamer. My next book is going to be the 5 educative languages of teaching.
Oh, wow.
And one of the teachers is the dreamer, and that's Mr. Phillips. He installed in me this concept of dreaming.
I was on the subway one day, and I was talking to my dad. I was like, man, I don't need no doctorate. I'm done. And a little kid overheard it. And so as I was getting off the train, the little kid said, hey, mister, you got a doctorate? I knew then I had to finish the doctorate so that I could show this little kid that he could do it too.
You know, and then as of a few months ago, I am the only African-American male full professor of tuba in the country.
Wow.
It's a big deal.
That's amazing. That is a big deal.
Full professor. And I'm very proud of it. I think, you know, I once had a conversation with someone that's like, well, we shouldn't go crazy about being the first. Here's the deal. I think everyone should be acknowledged when they're the first, because what that means is no one gave you warning. Right. No one told you what to look out for. You did this all by yourself, and it's not to glorify you. It's to glorify the path that others will take after you so that they have an easier chance to do it. That's why you identify with someone that's the first at something. It's not because I want to elevate myself. I want to elevate those who are going to come after me, because this is just the beginning. Mm-hmm. And that's what we fail to forget when someone's the first. It's like, oh my gosh, this is not the end. This is the beginning.
Thank you. Oh my God, this has been such a joy today to meet you and to connect with you and to have you on the show. And like I said, you are just the prime example of what it is to live passionately, to use your passions to change the world around you, and to use the challenges early on, as you said, as stepping points to go up to this new levels of greatness and to bring everyone with you.
I am very grateful for the time I had to spend with you today and passionate living. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard.
They see it and see where he came from, and he made out fine. They're gonna want to do the same thing.
Here we go. Sing too fast. When I say now.
Oh my God, Hildy, this is the second year I've seen you, and you are unbelievable. I mean, everything you do on stage, and you're funny while you do it.
Well, number one, you have good taste. And number two, you saw me also the year I peaked this year, you know.
Oh, is it? This is the peaking
nice.
year. It's all downhill from here.
Who knows, but I think I feel pretty confident this is the year, yeah.
How did your passion for this start?
Well, I was a social worker in Germany, and then I became a juggler. It was a hobby back in the beginning, and then I needed to make some money. I got an audition at Busch Gardens, and I got in, and I lived in Key West. I don't know if you've been to Key West.
Oh, I love Key West, yeah.
Active street performing scene there on Hilby Square. So I spent 2 winters there. And then things just took care of themselves. I really had a passion for juggling, and I loved making people laugh, and these things came together quite nicely.
That's good. Mick Jagger on stage. Check it out.
And you can tell when you're on stage, you're having fun.
No, I have total joy. And also I do believe it's like, when you're on stage, it's my job to like let people know there's no place I'd rather be than right now right here with you. And if you can't do that, people will pick up on that, and you have to really commit fully. And even if you don't mean it, you still do it. And then usually it's sort of self-feeding prophecy. It takes care of itself during the show, yeah.
It does, and it shows.
And Kendra, when I have Kendra, the sign language.
Oh, she's great. That was great.
Really fun. Yeah. And she has a great sense of humor.
Oh, JFK, you say JFK, cool. Obama has one. That's from the wife. And my favorite is Trump. And that's the truth, I'm not making it up.
Now, our show is Passionate Living. So we highlight people living their passions and using them to make a difference in the world, which you are touching so many people. Well, no, wait, that sounds wrong. You're touching so many people's hearts. So many
no more further questions, Your Honor. And it's nice to know, whatever you do in life, to know that what you do matters and means something to people, even if it's just a fleeting moment or a short period of time. But yeah, we're focusing often so much on the negative things and the things that set us apart. So it's nice to be in a situation where 45 minutes we have everything in common with the people here.
I love that. And what would you tell somebody that's out there that wants to follow their dream and live their passion, but they're kind of afraid? They're kind of like
well, it's okay to be afraid, you know. Afraid keeps you motivated, keeps you on your toes, and also it means you care. If you wouldn't be afraid, do you really care that? You know, I mean, I think fear often is a sign of caring also. And just get really good at it. I mean, that's the other thing. Just whatever you pick, it doesn't matter what it is, you know, if it's knitting or deep sea diving or juggling, just be so good that nobody can ignore you, and you can. And then again, it takes care of itself.
Oh, that's
but don't be afraid to be afraid. It's all good.
Oh, I love that. That's a great advice. Oh, Hildy, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
It was so beautiful.
Thank you.
It was really beautiful to experience your show and to experience your beautiful spirit.
Oh, that's nice of you.
Thank you.